Hello, guys, and welcome to yet another episode of Sustainability Simplified, your bi monthly dose of how to seamlessly build an action oriented, sustainable, and profitable business. And now we're also the official podcast of the Sustainability Council Network. We are an international network of sustainability enthusiasts, professionals, experts, and entrepreneurs. Register on sustainabilitycouncil.in. I'm your host, Zitin, and today we have with us Fayaz Ahmad Dar, who is the founder of Sagg Ecovillage, which is based in Kashmir. And we're going to talk about a very, very, very interesting concept. You'll find out in just about a minute. It's so great to have you, Fayaz, on the show. How are you today?
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here. I'm good. I mean, it's the autumn weather, and we have a very beautiful, pleasant day today. So I'm glad to be here.
That's wonderful. That's wonderful. So, has it started snowing? I think it started snowing a few weeks back, right?
Yeah, it did snow on the hills, but we had an unusual event in October. I mean, it snowed even in the plains, but briefly for 15-20 minutes, which was very scary and surprising. But yeah,
I guess
in the
climate change.
yeah, obviously. Uh, but right now the weather is good. It's holding on.
That's good. Awesome. Okay, so let's dive into our conversation then, shall we?
Sure.
Amazing. Great. So, please share a little bit about yourself and your journey of basically starting Sagg Eco Village. Why did you really start the organization? What was the motivation, really?
Well, I was born and brought up in a village near here in Ganderbal, basically in a peasant background, and I sort of am a first generation schooler. And very early on, I mean, I can, as far back as I can remember, when I was around 5 years old, I was sort of pulled out of a farm and forced into a school because as a kid, I really loved to work with my siblings in the farms, playing with the mud and all of that, and it was really
Yeah.
fun. And we were planting rice that day. I did particularly remember this incident, and my father sort of pointed towards me and asked me to get out of the field and clean myself up and change into a uniform and go to a school. I did not want to go, and I really wanted to be there, but anyway, so
Yeah.
that thing made me really uncomfortable, and that was the first instance that I sort of felt internally that something is not done right. Things that are happening, or even if it is for so-called education and good, but it's not something that I want, or the way it
Right.
is happening is not the way I want it. So
Correct.
so anyway, I got started on the schooling journey, and then uh, felt like uh, many things about the methodology of schooling. You had to change into a uniform. The subjects you were taught in a new language, that the language you
Right.
knew you know wasn't worth much. It also, the subjects you were taught, I mean, whether that it is science or civics or anything like that, I mean, you live those things on a day-to-day basis. And being a farmer or from a farming kind of community, you it could be very easy for you to learn all of that, the science behind the farming. You practically sort of knew what was happening, but the way it was taught was very alienating. I could not connect the science in the school with the science in the fields. Anyway, so
Yeah.
but I kept going with it because given how our upbringing is, well, how we are conditioned, that's education is the only way out for especially for those who are sort of uh, not well off already. So but that journey took me also outside of Kashmir, and I happened to experience other cultures and met a lot of other people.
Yeah.
And once my educational journey then turned into my work journey, that also helped me travel to different countries and different cultures, and I sort of gained quite a few insights into how, you know although the cultures were different, people looked different, the languages were different, but inherently the challenges were the same. I mean, and I have a sense that almost all Kashmiris have this sentiment of, mm, you know, doing something more than themselves, contributing to
Yeah.
their families, contributing to their communities. And I had a
Right.
similar sort of inkling, and I always, whenever I would sort of, mm, you know, see something that would inspire me, or whenever something would get my attention, I would always think about how can I take this back to Kashmir, and how can
Yeah.
we use it in Kashmir, and how can it make our lives easier here. Well, anyway, so when I found my footing, after, because the first struggle of all of us, for most people, is the financial struggle. And when I sort of found my
Right. Right.
footing that way, and I started realizing, I had, uh, I wanted to be more and do more, and because I was living away from my family. And so, anyway, to cut the long story short, I finally decided in 2010 to head back to Kashmir and quit my work life and start my sort of get back to my passion life again. And uh, so I came back in 2010 with an intention to help other younger people sort of basically avoid the pitfalls that I had encountered, and share my learning and experience with them, so that they could probably make use of it also. Uh, so we
So
started.
just sorry to interrupt.
Mhm.
Just for the benefit of our listeners, you came back from the States in 2010.
Yeah, in 2010 I came back from the States, but for a long, I had left Kashmir in 1993, and I lived in
Yeah.
Chandigarh for a while. Then I lived in Delhi, and then I got
Yeah.
opportunities to travel to many other countries. And I
Right.
quit my life in Delhi in 2009, and I went to the US for a program in conflict transformation and sustainable development. Sustainability was always something, when I can't remember when I first heard about the idea, but I remember I was always, whenever I thought about sustainability, it was always an attractive idea for me, as this idea of being custodians of what we have been bestowed with for the future generations.
Right.
And
Right.
so I felt it, that we were responsible to not only maintain the status quo, but make things better for the future generations. That was our supposed to be our responsibility. But yeah, so I came back in 2010 and started working with young people here, and we started a non-profit initiative called Mool Sustainability Research and Training Center, and organized participatory conversations with young people in Kashmir, in Jammu, in Ladakh, basically doing needs assessment exercise in terms of trying to understand from them what their aspirations were, what their dreams were, and what were the hurdles in the way. And many things came up, including obviously the contextual challenges that we face, but then also the general challenges about the inadequacy of the educational system, that it doesn't really prepare us fully to
Yeah.
be who we should be. And also, in context of Kashmir, there are very limited opportunities for engagement in meaningful livelihoods. And given the how the context conditions people try to make tend to make choices that they perceive as being safe rather than
Yeah.
risky. So creativity is sort of sacrificed uh, for safety and security. That's why there's so much focus on getting a government job or things
Yeah.
like that.
Yeah.
So anyway, so we sort of then built on that exercise, and we started another exercise that was about visioning. Imagining a future for our education and economy. What kind of a society do we want to live in,
Right.
and what would be the hallmarks of that society? So many that exercise was also done with a similar methodology of organizing these participatory conversations in different places, and not only with young people but also with other stakeholders, be it in academia, in intelligentsia, or in business. uh, and after a while, some ideas emerged which we saw as values that people were missing in the present context and wanted to see in their society. Things like coexistence and collaboration, dignity and trust, uh, equality and justice, freedoms and responsibilities, sustainabilities and self sufficiency. And along with that, many young people had this understanding that because Kashmir is bestowed with so much bounties of nature, so our economic initiatives should be sort of land based or localized. We were unable to see very practical examples of such an endeavor. So we sort of took it upon ourselves to uh, create an initiative around what we were learning. I mean, and then based on my own life experience and then this learning from this action research uh, of about 4 5 years in around 2013, we decided to start Sagg Ecovillage. So Mool is a Kashmiri word for roots, and Sagg is another Kashmiri word for watering the plants or trees, as in nurturing. So that's what the sort of relationship is, and that's how Mool and Sagg are related. So Sagg, as you know, is a natural farm come cultural retreat center that designs, develops, and promotes sort of recreational, educational, and lifestyle services, spaces, products, and programs for individuals, for families, for communities. And our mission is to build integrative and regenerative lifestyles and communities through ecological entrepreneurship, of course.
Yes, I'm going to catch on that last line you said, and I'm going to ask the next question, which is so first of all, thank you so much for sharing so many things about what you feel about this whole movement that you're trying to build. Really, it started with Mool and now has kind of expanded and grown into Sug. So let me harp on the ecological entrepreneurship part that you mentioned. So that is actually, for our listeners, that's actually the crux of the conversation. So let's really deep dive into that. Tell us a little bit more about ecological entrepreneurship. What is the scope of this space, and what are you guys at Sug specifically doing on ecological entrepreneurship?
Yeah, I mean, I would be glad to do that. And I mean, for somebody like me who was exposed to all of these things and who grew up in a context like Kashmir, I realized, there's uh, these problems, be it the ecological degradation, and there are many elements of ecological degradation, there's carbon, there's plastic, there's pollution, there's water scarcity, there's all of that. But then there are other challenges like health care, there's poor quality of education, there's
Yeah.
uh, you know livelihood challenges, there's poverty, and all of these problems are, I think, in my understanding, are a manifestation or are symptoms of a more basic problem, and that is basically our alienation from ourselves and our surroundings and communities, and then there are so many kinds of stresses that people face. There's an atmosphere of fear, uh, not just in Kashmir but around the world. That's how I think most people end up surrendering their uh, basic human capacity to the norms uh, of the society, unfortunately. So to address these myriad problems or myriad symptoms or so many issues that we are faced with in today's world, it needs an integrative approach,
Yeah.
uh, at at the back of at the base of which has to be our realization of uh, or our understanding of who we are, you know
Right.
this reintegration of our understanding of who we are and what we can do. I think you know uh, our initiative and our experience has taught us that life is supposed human life, is supposed to be an entrepreneurial venture. You are meant to take forward the evolution. You have this godlike capacity of imagination and creation.
Yeah.
So and the test of the life is to be able to use that imagination and creation to take forward the evolution.
Absolutely.
So that mindset is behind the entrepreneurial capacity of the human endeavor. So then when you have that mindset, then comes the your relationship and your connection and your understanding of the ecological resources. So then you can start integrating your own capacities and your own self, your own passions, your own values with the, the natural, the ecological resources, and then the cultural wisdoms. I think every place has developed, the cultural wisdom, the wisdom through generations to live meaningfully and in harmony. Wherever you are, given which space you are in, I mean, you can build upon the cultural wisdom and bring that in also. So, integration of ecological wisdom, then the cultural wisdom with your own personal values and passions and capacity, and then integrating them with the technological wisdom and the scientific wisdom that is available right now. So that's basically the idea of ecological entrepreneurship. Uh, Creating a business model and then managing that business in a way that is sort of uh, the win-win for everybody.
Right, right, absolutely.
Uh, yeah,
Right, absolutely. And I think you've called it Sagg Ecovillage Academy, if I'm not mistaken.
right. So Sagg Ecovillage is this physical space where we do some farming, and we have created spaces and services for, as I was saying, individuals, families, and communities. We host travelers, we organize treks and camps, so we organize capacity building workshops here, and uh, uh, and also camps for children, for students, for businesses or retreats and things like that. So the campus is sort of this vibrant space, and it's also this lived experience of all of these ideas, the ecological entrepreneurship, as I was uh, explaining. So this is the experiment ground, and but then the Sagiko Village Academy is the space where we're trying to sort of use our experience and our learning to take it to other people and help other people uh, uh, bring our experience to their awareness, and then if they are interested, then we can work with them on the mindset, on the skills, on the knowledge uh, uh, needed, and to become ecological entrepreneurs. And we're trying to create space where we can bring in more people. We can help aspiring entrepreneurs, we can help students or other, even businesses and educational establishments to uh, bring this lens of ecological entrepreneurship into their work and be more sensitive. Like you talk about sustainability, we want to bring in ecological entrepreneurship into the
Right.
conversation everywhere. So yeah, into the bureaucracy. So we do coachings, we do consulting, and we do outreaches. We are trying to sort of also uh, connect and network with other people, building an understanding and generating resources where people can be helped to pursue their passions and uh, become more productive and more harmonious. sort of examples of entrepreneurship
Amazing.
and
Love that. I love the spirit.
livelihoods.
I love the vibe, and I love the passion with which you say it. So I'm sure that it's gonna do very well even going forward. So thank you so much for thank you so much for sharing that.
Thank you.
So I want to switch back a little bit to your experience being an entrepreneur. Mool, then Sug. What just for the benefit of our listeners, what have been some of the challenges really, and maybe some of the opportunities? And briefly, you did mention some opportunities in the earlier answer relating to the academy. But what are some of those greater challenges? And opportunities that you may have basically capitalized on since you started your entrepreneurial journey really?
There are challenges are numerous, and the way I look at it is, the bigger the challenge, the bigger the opportunity. Whatever obstacle you are faced with, or whatever challenge you are faced with, is actually nature's way of giving you a clue in terms of where to go or where to focus or which path to take, be it an internal sort of uh, thing, or be it in the external environment. Whatever is scaring you or making you uncomfortable is for you to explore. In my experience, uh, persistence is the key. I mean, you will, of course, find your gift. You will be able to share your gift. You will be able to uh, you know become what you want. Nothing is going to stop you but yourself. So I think there are, the challenges and are could be enormous, but you have to have a mindset of persistence and faith over fear. That is one of our sort of mottos. You have to have faith over fear.
Great. So on that note,
Thank you.
yeah. So on that note, before we conclude the podcast episode, I have a quick surprise section, which is a this or
Okay.
that. So you basically need to choose. I'll
Oh,
give you like 3 or 4 questions. You need to choose this or that, one of the two options that I'll give you. So
okay.
are you ready?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Okay, awesome. Great. So the first
Nervous
one
but
is,
ready.
sorry.
A bit nervous but ready.
No, they are very simple questions. Don't worry.
Okay.
Great. So the first one is one-on-one business coaching or public speaking.
Public speaking.
That's awesome. Faith over fear. Next is business consulting or non-profit consulting assignments. Which one do you prefer?
Non-profit consulting.
Okay, that's I like the clarity. Okay.
Mhm.
Next is Sug Recreation, so Sagg Ecovillage as a space, or would you prefer Sug products, which you've not spoken much about as yet? So you can probably take this opportunity to talk about it. But what would you prefer out of the two?
Very tricky, very tricky. I prefer I prefer the Sugg spirit in both. So Sugg
Okay,
products, yeah, let me also say something about the Sugg products. Sugg products, we use sort of the traditional recipes and the local natural ingredients to
right,
preserve foods, but also then create some handcrafted products. So
right,
we have things like pickles, jams, and seasonal, preserved foods, but also dried uh, apples and things like that, vegetables, and we have grass mats or grass chappals or things like that as well. And we are sort of trying to scale this work up, and soon you might see a few more. We have also some local herbal extracts,
wonderful.
herbal teas. Yeah,
That's awesome. That's awesome.
thank
So
you.
great.
Yeah,
And the last one is sustainable lifestyles or regenerative lifestyles.
regenerative. I think
That's kind of a no-brainer.
I think that they're the same. It The spirit is the same, but
Yeah.
regenerative speaks me. to me more than sustainability, because I have been, as I said earlier, I was fascinated by sustainability. I still am fascinated by sustainability, but regenerative is for me the next step, because I had to sort of regenerate. I feel like I have to regenerate some parts of myself again.
Yeah,
You know?
yeah.
Yeah. So
Awesome. Amazing. Great. So that was a quick one and that was very nicely done. So congratulations. It was a great
thank you,
rapid fire
thank
question.
you.
Great. So now let's move to the concluding section. You did mention about your advice to maybe our listeners, but if there's any other advice that you might want to give, because you briefly mentioned about persistence and faith over fear, but if there's any other advice you might like to give, you can do so.
Yeah, I think it might sound like a cliche, but the moment, I mean, you make a decision and you start sort of following that decision, working on that decision, things fall in place. I mean, you can't imagine how things happen. I mean, obviously, as we were talking about the brain being something that whose basic function is, or one of the basic functions is to keep us safe. So it gives us sort of these warning signs about this could go wrong, this could go wrong, this is not this is not enough. You need that, you need that. So you need to sort of
Yeah,
listen to that and plan well. But
right.
there are so many things that happen, good things, positive things that happen that you can't foresee. you know so it's a
Right.
good thing to foresee, try and foresee the problem and try to mitigate, have a mitigation strategy. But you should also have a part of uh, as a part of the plan, a faith section, that synchronicities will happen, miracles will
Yeah.
happen. Some things will happen that you have not planned for, and you will get help and support and encouragement along the way, be it in the shape of somebody just saying that something nice to you, or sometimes somebody pitching in with a resource that you need. A lot of the things, anything can happen, and but the key is you make a decision and then follow it wholeheartedly. So like Urdu word, I'm unable to remember the English word of it, the shiddat, जो है ना, अगर आप
Yes.
अपने
Yes.
डिसीजंस में शिद्दत लाते हैं, और अपने ख्वाबों में शिद्दत लाते हैं, अपनी दुआओं में शिद्दत लाते हैं, तो you internalize
Uh,
them, and when you internalize your mission, when you internalize your decision, uh, you know synchronicities will happen. आपको गायबाना मदद मिल जाएगी.
Absolutely. And for the benefit of our listeners, by the way, Fayaz and I also met in a very coincidental way. A friend of mine happened to share their Instagram page with me, and then I got in touch with them, and that's how basically we met. So
Yeah,
that itself is already an example of this, I believe.
absolutely.
Great. So that was some great advice. I'd also like to check with you. How could our listeners really reach out to you or Sug Eco Village if they wish to?
Well, right now we are present on almost most common social platforms like Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, and YouTube. Sug Eco Village, SAGG Eco Village. If you sort of look it up, you will find our pages, and our website is www.sugecovillage.earth. So that's another way to reach out to us, and you can also email us at sagecovillage@gmail.com. Sagecovillage@gmail.com. That's a very simple email ID that we have. And yeah, thank you. We're looking forward to receiving you, and hoping our paths cross soon.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Fayaz, for your time. It was a pleasure interacting with you on the show. And I hope, there's a lot that, of course, Sug can do and it is planning to do. So I'm looking forward to seeing some updates around that soon. Thank you so much.
Thank you, thank you. It's been a pleasure. It's a pleasure to connect with you again and connect with your listeners. Such a pleasure, and look forward to more. Thank you,
Thank you so much. Thank
thank
you.
you, and all the best. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for listening. And if you like this podcast, feel free to share it in your network. My one takeaway from this episode was faith over fear. 100%. Also, if you found this podcast insightful and you're an aspiring entrepreneur or a current entrepreneur with a business in operation, but don't know how to kickstart your sustainable business journey, check out the links in the description box below and or reach out to me on my socials at the rate Zitin Munshi. That's ZITINMUNSHI. Until next time.